These photos we're looking at now are called Yardstick photos. They're probably the most graphic example you could find of the photo suggesting a power relationship, and an exceedingly inequitable power relationship, and it's also a inequitable racial relationship. Tell us about these Yardstick photos. What's going on here? Who are these people that in this instance are the native people that have been chosen to be so diminutive next to the overpowering white colonial?
There's this run of images in Worcester's collection that juxtapose sort of Americans and Filipinos, and in particular Filipinos from what would have been called at the time Negrito populations. They themselves might have called themselves Ati or Eta, and were sort of physically tended to be rather short as a population. And for someone like Worcester, who was very tall, this was a striking distinction, a cultural distinction, but that mapped onto his assumptions of racial superiority that were informed by how people at the time were understanding science, how they were understanding culture. And I think that these images, and in some of these you can see Worcester himself, and some you see another colonial governor, Governor Pack, are ways of communicating the cultural differences, but they also are deliberately trying to juxtapose white and Filipino through the lens of tall and short. And this is a visual strategy that also matches a political strategy. So as we think about photographs and power, I think this is a pretty clear case where we can see that at work.
Kyler, correct me if I'm wrong, it's my impression that Worcester spoke especially harshly of the Negritos, and I say that because of some of the captions that I recall him writing. Isn't it true that he, even in looking at the non-Christian tribes, he had his racial hierarchies?
That is indeed correct. But I wanted to make one comment on these photos, and particularly the bottom set of showing Governor Pack with the two men, because in those images we actually see the men staring back at the camera and asserting their identities in a powerful way, that gentleman with his hands on his hip. So I think while they were objectifying and diminishing these people, we shouldn't take away entirely the agency of the people in facing the camera themselves.
I think as we move in, and we talked about how contradictory these things are, we will see images that are very powerful and positive, and people have a certain pride.